cool announcements today that some of you may not be aware of. MBSS has bought out WYB. That means Mark Bell Slingshot and Within You brand have smack dab come together, and they're all available on one site. So now when you go to markbellslingshot.com, you're able to buy Within You brand products as well. I'm kind of kidding about there being like a merger. It's a joke. Both of them are my companies, but that's what supports this show, and that's what supports a lot of the stuff that you guys have seen over the years, SuperTraining Gym, the various podcast formats, and all the different things that we've done. So much of it has been basically bought and paid for through Slingshot and through Within You brand. If you haven't tried some of the supplements from Within You brand, you're missing out. We have the best proteins in the world. I send them to people, all kinds of different people, and people are always like, oh yeah, I've tried this protein powder, that protein powder. But we have the best in the world by far. We make the steak shake. The steak shake is collaborative proteins all mixed together with liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas titrated into the supplement as well. And there's whey protein, egg protein, collagen protein, and beef protein. That has the best rate limiting factor of any protein on the market, meaning that its amino acid profile is going to last a lot longer than a lot of the other amino acid profiles of various forms of protein powders that are out there. So that one kicks ass. It tastes amazing. We make chocolate. We have salted caramel. We have banana. We have all different kinds of amazing flavors. The vanilla has been updated and upgraded. The vanilla is a lot better than it used to be. I used to kind of not like it, but it sold well, so we kept it in the lineup. And now we have a vanilla that I really like for the steak shake. Then we also make the Total Carnivore steak shake. And the Total Carnivore is amazing because it has liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas in it as well. But in addition to that, it also has beef tallow. In addition to that, it only has beef protein isolate and collagen. That makes it a ass kicker because it's not going to cause the bloat that some people get from dairy. There's no dairy, there's no whey, there's no lactose, there's no gluten. I took out every allergen that you could possibly think of, including egg, which some people are allergic to. So it's beef protein isolate, collagen, and we recently dropped frosted oatmeal cookie as well as chocolate banana. And both those flavors are absolutely amazing, along with the flavors that we already have, which is vanilla malt, mocha, and chocolate. The chocolate has been the flagship one. That one's been so hard to keep in stock. I appreciate all the support for all of you people that know about the products. Hopefully through some of this advertising, this will make more people aware of it, but then we'll run out more often. And the people that are fans and the people that are subscribing, I might be disappointed because we continue to sell out of these products, but we're doing the best we can to keep these up to date and to keep these in stock, but they just keep flying off the shelves. So it's a great problem to have. And then those of you who have been around for a long time, obviously, know about the Slingshot, the hip circle, the Slingshot supportive upper body device for bench press, push-ups, dips, all those good things. And along with the Slingshot, we make elbow sleeves and knee sleeves, make everything to make your workouts a little bit more comfortable, make your workout a little bit more convenient, just have less pain while you're trying to work out. It's super annoying when your shoulder hurts or your elbow hurts trying to get through a workout. So check out all the stuff we have at markbellslingshot.com. We got slingshots and elbow sleeves and wrist wraps and knee wraps and just, any and everything you can think of. And then also you can pick up your favorite Within You brand products as well if you'd like. So now we're going to start talking about the ins and outs of my diet currently, some of the stuff that I'm following that Cole Robinson is doing, some of the stuff from Durian Ryder as well. And it's really just a diet that a lot of people have done for many years. It's just a low-fat diet. And I guess the main difference here with what Cole is communicating about is not really much in the way of caloric restriction. and not much in the way of there's no fasting. It's not low carb. It's not keto. It's actually more like high carb, high sugar, and it's high sugar through fruit. So you can have sugar and you can mix in other types of foods, and you can try to trick this diet a little bit. But just like any diet, when you're trying to make real progress, there are no actual tricks. One thing I think is fascinating about this diet is that you're utilizing carbohydrates consistently and constantly as a form of energy. As the day goes longer and you need less energy if you're not working out in the evening, and you are going to go to bed at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that, you're not really continuously shoveling down carbohydrates at 6 and 7 p.m., 8 p.m. because you're down regulating for the day, right? It's not like you can't have carbs, but you're trying to back them off a bit. And so that's the diet I've been following for the last couple of weeks. I would say I probably have been doing the diet for about 8 weeks. And in that time frame, I think I've lost about 5 pounds, which isn't a crazy amount of weight, but it's been more difficult for me to pull weight off of myself more recently because I am getting leaner. And so here's kind of the start of me trying to communicate the best I can on the particulars of this diet and on diets in general for today. Fat makes you fat. That's not actually true. Nothing makes you fat other than yourself, and other than yourself not being able to break out of the mold and break some of the habits that you've had previously. We can, there's a lot of ways that you can figure out how to not gain fat any further. There's a lot of ways you can figure out how to start to lose body fat. You can count calories. You can track your macros. You can do a meal plan. You can utilize intermittent fasting. You can do a 24-hour fast once or twice a week, and that might give you enough results, and you might not have to clean up other aspects of your diet. Might be able to kind of keep it the same and continue to lose weight. Like, there's so many ways that we can do this. Ketogenic diets, I still think, are great. The carnivore diet, I think, is a great intervention for a lot of people. I want people to keep in mind, I've lost over 100 pounds, and I've done so, and I've kept the weight off. I think that's noteworthy because there's not really a lot of other people out there communicating about weight loss who've lost 100 pounds and kept it off. And, my background being, in powerlifting, and I kind of gained some of that weight on purpose. So it's a little bit different than somebody actually just flat out being obese, although I was definitely in that category. But I was big and fat and capable. There's a big difference between being obese and not being very capable of much movement. I could still get in a lot of exercise for the day. I could still do a lot of stuff. But what I want to talk about just for a moment here is that a large percentage of your fat calories, when you're over your overall calories for the day, can be converted to fat the easiest in comparison to proteins and carbohydrates. Now, we can also say that, look, if you're in a caloric surplus, it doesn't really matter. The body's going to be storing fat, and the body might take excess from wherever it has the most access to. And I would say that's fair. That's a fair point. But I think what is sabotaging a lot of people that are being keto, a lot of people that are carnivore, a lot of people that are trying to go low carb. Keep in mind, from what I've done, most of the time in my low carb career, I called keto just to kind of have a category to be in. And I called it the war on carbs, because I also recognized that I didn't want to be constrained to a particular group. And the carnivore group is something I did embrace, and it's something I have done. But for those of you that have been paying attention, especially those of you who have been listening to long format that I've had, I've been talking a long time about eating vegetables. I've been talking a long time about also eating fruit. So this idea of me eating meat, fruit, and vegetables is not new. What is a little bit newer is that I am eating more carbohydrate. So in the past, I might have had, I don't know, 5 handfuls of berries in some yogurt or something like that. And then over time, as I've gotten leaner, those couple handfuls of berries have turned into, like, a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I'd have a fruit bowl. I'd make these giant ass fruit bowls every night. But in any case, what I want to share mainly today, I'll get a little bit more detailed on the fat, but what I want to share in more detail and try to communicate better about is just overeating. Just eating in abundance and being bingy. I wouldn't call myself necessarily a binge eater per se, but there's times where I binge. And I'm not talking about, Nutty Professor binge or the movie The Whale binge. I'm not talking about someone who's, obese and been obese for a long time and they're in a frenzy, okay? My frenzy is much more tame. It's almost always with healthy food. I haven't had a cheat meal in a pretty long time. With what I'm currently doing, I don't feel like I need a cheat meal, and maybe there's something to talk about there. I have mentioned before that your diet should be something that you don't feel like you need to cheat on. Like, there should be enough substance there, enough gratification, satisfaction. Let's make up some words while we're at it. It should be satisfying, nourishing, right? It should be all these things. And if it's all these things, then you don't have to go outside and chew on the grass like your dog might do when your dog's not getting the proper nutrition from its diet, right? Those creatures are pretty smart. So yeah, I will end up in a binge. And some people might be surprised to hear that. How about for you guys? Are you guys ending up in a binge? I'm going to be answering some questions here in a little bit. I'm just going to kind of ramble on though for a little bit longer. So it's my inability to pump the brakes once the diesel truck has been in motion. And that diesel truck is my mouth. And I want to keep feeding it. I want to keep stuffing stuff in my mouth. And you can make whatever jokes you want in there. You can go ahead. But once I kind of get started, it's like I kind of open the floodgates. And so as good of a job as I've done with my weight loss, and as good of a job as I've done of swapping stuff out. So just a swap alone, just learning to swap foods can help you lose weight drastically. Just swapping, just changing your food. Think about that. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Now, the swap of food, it has got to be reasonable, right? We can't be like, you love ice cream, just replace that with an apple. It's like, dickhead, like, that's an apple. Come on, I'm fat. I'm a fat guy. I don't, it's not that I don't like apples, but an apple is a pretty far cry from ice cream. God damn it, right? So what we switch to, if you're going to switch from a cigarette to something else, I'd imagine you would vape something or something like that, right? Like, how do you get rid of that? How do you, can you get rid of that fix cold turkey? Maybe some people can. Maybe some people are like, I'm never smoking again. They never do it again. And maybe for some people, they're like, hey, you know what? I'm going to really, only eat ice cream like a couple times a year. Maybe there's people that can do that. I feel like I've gotten myself to that point now. From where I started, I wouldn't have been able to do that from where I started. If you're like, dude, you can only have ice cream once a month, that would have been tough for me because I had Ben and Jerry's almost every single day. Fish food, by the way. What's your favorite Ben and Jerry's? What do you got? Yeah, fish food. The little fudge chunks and the marshmallow. Amazing. Tonight dough and stuff like that wasn't out back then, so don't get your panties in a bunch. Yeah, so I still will end up binging, but I swapped out for better foods. More recently, I've been communicating with you guys since I started the Single Digit Body Fat series. One of the things that inspired the Single Digit Body Fat series is I said to myself, you know what? There's got to be better communication about getting ripped and getting shredded, and like extreme weight loss. Like aggressive weight loss is probably a better way to put it, because extreme sounds like you're putting yourself in danger. And what I'm advocating for, none of these things are dangerous. I have advocated for dry fasting, intermittent fasting, low carb, all these things. They're all interventions to do at specific times. And they're all interventions that can be done very safe and in a healthy way. They are all interventions that can also be done in an unhealthy way, because we can start to limit food and restrict nutrition way too much to a point where it's just not making any sense anymore, and it's not providing what the body needs. But when I started the Single Digit Body Fat series, I started immediately talking about fat making you fat. And again, that statement is just a little inflammatory on purpose. It's not really the truth. Because like if you had a day where you had 20 grams of fat, you're certainly not going to get fat from those 20 grams of fat. It's when we're in abundance. But like, where does the fat grams, what is that cutoff point for fat grams? There isn't necessarily a fat grams point, right? It's not like, oh my God, you had 120 grams of fat. And so the body's like, yo, we're going to take an extra 20 grams because you went over your 100 gram, you have a 100 gram limit. And the body's like, we're going to take those 20 grams and we're going to stick them on your butt or stick them on your love handles. It does not work that way. The system is a lot more complex than that. However, it is as simple as, did you overeat or not? And I don't think it's like identical to the way that we think that it works now with calories per calorie and all these different things, but it's about like that, to the point where Ray, that we had on our show, the online coach, he would suggest to somebody, he'd say, hey, walk an extra 20 minutes a day. This is someone that's going to get on stage. Walk an extra 20 minutes a day. They'd walk an extra 20 minutes a day. He'd get pictures sent to them of their physique. That's what he does. He helps people get on stage and get shredded. And when he, would see the pictures, he's like, okay, cool. And the person would lose a little bit of weight just in that small little extra 20-minute walk, because they just tweaked it just right. Now, these are people that you can clearly see when they drop any sort of body fat because they're insanely lean. But these methods and these things work similar in everybody. Now, they might not work as well in somebody with a busted metabolism. They might not work as well in someone who's obese. And that's part of the problem. Is it harder for certain people to lose weight than other people? I would have to say 100, maybe 1000%, that is the case. It is tougher for some people to lose weight than others, all the way to the point where for some people, they can bring their calories down, they can get moving a little bit, or even a lot of it, and really still struggle to see improvements on the scale. So I believe that most people would agree with that. I agree. I would say that Lane Norton, Mike Israetel, all these people would say, yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. But they also might say, hey, look, if someone just didn't eat for 3 days, they're going to lose weight, right? We also know that the metabolism slows down a lot. The metabolism comes down a lot when we start to really lower calories a lot. Your non-exercise activity thermogenesis and like all kinds of stuff probably happens. Body temperature might be just a tiny bit different. Like all these things might just be a tiny bit different because your body doesn't really love fat loss. And for me, I've been perpetually losing fat for a long time. I'm super excited. I'm about 10 to 12 pounds away from not really worrying about it ever again. And that's not that I'm worried about it, but I'm trying to get to a weight around 200 pounds. I think it will make my running and make everything a lot easier. And so I'm excited for that. But it's been challenging. And weight loss can be very difficult. And it's important for people to understand that. Something that I want you to run through your head. I'm not too big on negativity or negative talk, but sometimes it can go a long way. I want you to think about when you make the right choice, when you have a good day of exercise, and you have a good day of eating, and then you weigh yourself the next day, and there's no noticeable improvement from the scale. You weighed 300 yesterday, and you had a great day of eating and a great day, a 10 out of 10 on everything. You weigh yourself the next morning, you're 302. I want you to say to yourself, hey, that's only one day, bitch. I want you to say that to yourself. Like, this takes time. It's going to take a lot of time. You're not going to lose pounds every day. You're going to lose fractions of a pound maybe every couple days. Fractions of a pound every couple days. If you can lose a pound a week, that is a pretty rapid pace. If you can lose 2 pounds a week, that's flying. And that's usually just people in the beginning stages of their diet. Every once in a while, there's anomalies to everything, right? But anyway, the reason why I started the single digit body fat series was to communicate better with people about, look, you can't just be shoveling down tons and tons of meat, because it depends on the type of meat. And for some reason, whenever we say meat, people just picture like ground beef, I think. That's where people's mind goes to. It goes to beef, and it goes to ground beef, which is unfortunate, because there's so many other types of meat. Now, there's some people that don't enjoy fish at all. But hang with me here for a second. If you cut out fish, you're cutting out so many great opportunities to have pure protein without any fat in it. Shrimp and scallops, like, there's so many different options for fish. It might be worthwhile, not for you to choke it down if you hate it, but it might be worthwhile to see if you can get your palate used to it. I really like pink salmon. I get wild caught pink salmon. It's in a can from Wild Planet. Some of these things can be a little bit pricey. I don't have control over these things, but all canned fish, and from what I've heard, all canned fish has to be wild caught, and those are some of your best options. Believe it or not, there might be like fresh fish right here, and there might be wild caught over here, and the wild caught canned option, and from what I've heard and researched, oftentimes is a better one. But anyway, the canned options are great because storing it is easy. You don't have to worry about it, going bad and everything. Anyway, I get the pink salmon, and it's like 4 grams of fat per serving. So it's minimal fat, but it's still loaded with your DHA, which the human body does not produce on its own. So you're getting some good nutrients that way. So when you cut out fish, you're cutting out like a whole subset of stuff that can really provide great nutrients for you. And it can also give you some options in terms of having leaner sources of protein. Stan Efferding years ago used the word augment. And my buddy John Anderson also is somebody who's used augmenting over the years in more ways than one. Stan, you guys know, is super jacked. John Anderson, jacked like a mofo, professional strongman athlete. May as well have been a professional bodybuilder too, because he just looked so insane. John is still jacked. He's still unbelievable in unbelievable shape in his mid-50s. But these guys would augment their meals. So what they mean by that is, like, they would take a meal that would have, let's say, like 30 grams of fat. And over the weeks, that same meal would then have maybe 25 grams of fat, and then maybe 20 grams of fat, and then maybe 15. So someone like John Anderson would have ground beef for a few weeks, and then he'd switch, and he'd have ground beef, and he'd add a little bit of lean turkey to it. And he kept doing that over and over again until his plate was finally just lean turkey and vegetables. And that's how he would end up getting completely shredded. And I know about these things. I knew about these things. I know that bodybuilders also, they rip their fats way down. There's not a lot of bodybuilders stepping on stage eating 100 grams of fat. Maybe some guys are, because they're some people are utilizing reverse dieting going into a show, which is interesting. They'll bring their calories back up maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks before the show, and they'll gain weight going into the show. But bodybuilding is about as intense and extreme as it can go, and it's very hard for anyone to like live like a normal average life while they're trying to commit to such a large it's a large commitment when you're eating specifically like a bodybuilder. I think it's too much. All the prepped meals and all the different things, and I just think it's a lot. I think most of us are better off with 2 to 3 main meals a day. We don't have to meal prep. I don't meal prep. I don't weigh myself. I don't count my calories. I do weigh myself. My scale is my calorie counter. My scale tells me when I ate too many calories and if I'm trying to head in that direction of losing weight, the scale tells me when I was on point with that as well. So what I recognized over the years is that the fat is really disruptive of a lot of people's progress. And it doesn't mean not to eat any fat. It doesn't mean that you have to be nitpicky about every single meal that you have. But for a lot of you that are stalled, you're in stall city, you are going to want to examine that. You're going to want to take a look at that. You're going to want to start to pay attention to that. And you might just want to try to bring your fat calories down. 93.7 lean ground beef, 93 anything, 93 turkey, 93 chicken, any of these things. Anything that's like just in the 90s. If you eat a pound of it, it's going to have about 35 grams of fat in it. That's a pretty significant amount of fat. Now, if that's all you ate for the day, which most of you are probably too big to only live off of eating a pound of something in one day, maybe unless you had, a lot of fruit and vegetables throughout the day, maybe you can get away with just eating a pound. But for myself, like it's not easy for me to get through a day only eating a pound of meat. So my point in bringing that up is like that ends up being a pretty good amount of fat grams in when you start to think about the other fat calories that you had for the day, they really start to add up. What is a cutoff point for people? I would say, again, there's not a specific cutoff point to where the body's like, hey, we're going to be fat. But I would say for a lot of you, it'd be good to start to pay attention to your fat grams and start to see if you can try to keep them under 75. I know there's a lot of talk about hormones. There's a lot of talk about like, isn't it going to do this and shut down that? And no, I don't believe it will. I don't believe it will at all if you're getting the nourishment in some of the other ways. Keep in mind, when a bodybuilder goes like 40 grams of fat and they start doing that for weeks on end, like they're doing that for a long time, number one. Number two, they're doing an hour of cardio every day. Number three, they're also lifting weights on top of that. So it's a lot. Like they're doing a lot of things. And someone like Ensema and other people have shared, like, you might lose your libido and some of this. One of the worst things you can do is to continue having a lot of excess body fat on you. It's one of the worst things that you can do. So we want to try to get rid of the fat. It doesn't have to be as quickly as possible, but we do want to try to get rid of the fat fairly quickly. And so considering that, you might want to drop your fat calories all the way to the basement on some days. Maybe go 3-4 days where you're primarily just eating fruit. It's interesting when you suggest something like that, people are like, that's nuts. I would never do that. But then there's those same people that think that's nuts may have done a 3-day fast before. So this is different than even that. This is like, basically you're just fasting away from meat for a couple days, turning vegan for a few days. How's that? Being vegan for a few days. Fruit, vegetables. I mean, look, if you do that for a few days, that it should be like guaranteed that you lose some weight. If you have like 3 or 4 servings of vegetables and 3 or 4 servings of fruit in a day, like that should work out to be pretty damn good. So you should be able to keep those calories at bay. And I want to mention kind of finally, before we get into answering some questions, I want to also say that, again, if you're doing a ketogenic diet or a low carb diet, you're cutting out macronutrients. So in a way to basically assist you and help you to manage your calories so you can manage your body weight. When you utilize intermittent fasting, you're doing the same thing. When you utilize this strategy of cutting down your fats, you're doing something very similar. When you do this with a low carb style diet, when you do this and you're protein leveraging, a la Ted Naiman, when you're utilizing these methods and you're utilizing something like protein leveraging and or low carb, protein can be very satiating. Protein can be it can help a lot with your hunger, right? It has a high satiety level, much like a baked potato. A baked potato has a high satiety level because a baked potato is kind of dense, right? It's kind of like heavy. It'll keep you full for a long time. So we can start to mix strategies a little bit here. There's no reason to like be in one particular camp. There's also carb cycling, which is absolutely phenomenal too, where you can have a day that's primarily just carbs. The next day can primarily just be protein. The next day after that could be a mix or blend of all three. Right. And again, I said it earlier, if you count calories and you count your macros and you do some of those things, you could find a balance of carbs, fat, and protein that works really well. But if you're eating 4 or 5 times a day and each meal has 15 to 20 grams of fat in it, it's going to be really, really hard for you to lose weight. You're going to be sabotaging your diet. Lastly, I'll mention this is that if you can kind of swap what you end your nights with, you might be able to find tremendous amounts of weight loss right there. So you do your normal day, and without any real dietary changes, you just start to swap that ice cream out for something slightly different. You start to make yogurt. I think I've talked about these things many times. You get some yogurt, a yogurt flavor, a yogurt type that you like, mix some protein powder in there, and it's either like a low carb or a low fat little protein bomb instead of you consuming something that has fat and carbohydrates in it. Fat and carbohydrates tend to cause a little bit of an energy traffic jam, and it makes it very difficult to lose weight. Not only does it make it difficult and cause a traffic jam within a meal, but it's very easy to overeat those things. And then all of a sudden you just had like 800 calories in the snap of a finger. I think sometimes some of these Ben and Jerry's things I think are like 1,200 calories. So that's like that's a pint of ice cream where you're crushing a lot of calories at one time. Let's take some questions over here.
Crazed Corgi asks, what is your minimum fats for yourself right now?
I'm just trying to keep them as low as possible. Yesterday, as an example, I had a couple rice cakes. Each one of those has about 1 gram of fat. I think I had about 3 of those. And I had cod and oysters, or not oysters, sorry, cod and scallops. Scallops are almost completely fat-free. Cod is very lean as well. So there's hardly any fat in any of that stuff. And then I also had Piedmontese, a flat iron steak, and I think that might have had about 6 grams of fat in it. So, and I did that for like the last 2 days. And I feel, I don't notice any adverse effects. I don't feel weird. I don't feel, sometimes from a bolus of sugar, I will feel a little bit weird. That's just because I haven't done anything like that in a long time. And I think it's going to, it takes my body maybe a little bit getting used to. But I guess like realistically, like on a day-to-day basis, I'm trying to keep my fat grams under like 40, probably almost more so towards like 30. And again, if you're trying to lose weight, like you don't have to take what I'm saying and then follow it exactly. You could take what I'm saying and implement some of the things into your diet where you're like, I could do that. So what you might want to try to do is just have a day where you submarine your fats. Have a day where you just go down to 20, 30 grams of fat for the day. And just try it. just like I recommended with dry fast. So just try it for a day. It's important that we just sometimes try some of these things. And if you're someone that hasn't fasted for a while, you can't figure out how to get yourself back into it, or you're like, man, I haven't fasted in a while. I should do a 24-hour fast. Try a 24-hour fruit fast where you are only eating fruit, and you can throw some vegetables in there too. Fruit and vegetables. Just don't eat anything with any fat in it. Try it for a day, maybe 2 days. Just see how it goes. See what happens. I think you'll be pretty happy with the results. I think you'll feel pretty damn good from it.
Miranda wants to know, can you share some more of your healthy swaps?
Yeah. So my swaps now will look a little bit more crazy than what they did in the beginning. But when I'm thinking like ice cream, I just think sorbet, so like that kind of sucks because like you're not getting that chocolatey. I'm a chocolate fan. I love chocolate. I love peanut butter. I love the hard hitting stuff that has a lot of fat and a lot of sugar in it. But I can get like a really good response from having like a sorbet, or taking a bunch of frozen fruit and just blending it up. That turns into a sorbet basically the same way. You could take fruit, and you can take some yogurt, dump some yogurt in there, maybe a little bit of protein powder. And now you have, just protein and straight carbs in a like smoothie / sorbet type thing. Absolutely amazing. If your palate is a little bit more on the other side and you're looking for that kind of hedonic response that you get from more like a chocolatey type thing, or, something that's sweet in that direction, then you can't go wrong with the products that we have at Within You brand. Last night I had a David bar, which is I had a chocolate peanut butter one. David bars, 2 grams of fat. They have, their soluble fibers or whatever in them to keep them sweet. And I had the chocolate peanut butter ones, really, really good. All of them are pretty good, but the chocolate chip cookie dough one, I think is the other one that I like a lot. I'll eat 1 or 2 of those almost every night, as a swap for, something sweeter and something that has more calories. It only has 2 grams of fat in it. So there's not a lot of protein bars in the market that have 2 grams of fat. When when you're scouring over and looking at things, you'll go, oh, geez, like things have so much more fat in them than you think. Just like it could be something kind of small and it's got 8 grams of fat in it. Now, 8 grams of fat is not really that much, but again, it adds up throughout the day. Let's just say like in the morning, say like you had almost like a bodybuilder style breakfast. Let's say you had oatmeal and you had some egg whites and you had like a whey protein shake. And you have a couple like whole eggs. Let's say you have like 2 whole eggs. Well, right there, you probably it's hard to get through that meal being under 15 grams of fat. So even when you're eating like super clean and super strict, you still got in like 15 grams of fat, which again, is not high, but they add up quickly. Now maybe at lunch, maybe you have some chicken and some avocado, or you have some chicken thighs and avocado. Well, now you just added like 30 grams of fat. Now you're at 45. You had 2 meat. You know what I'm saying? Like it adds up super fast. And these things that we think are like healthy, avocado, olive oil, like I'm not saying that they're not healthy, but they really rack the calories up super fast. Remember, fat has 9 calories per gram. Carbs and protein have 4 calories per gram. So you can eat almost double the amount of carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is weird too because, and protein, protein has a pretty good thermic effect. I don't think fat has much thermic effect. I actually have never really looked into that, but I know that, it takes quite a bit for your body to even like process protein, and it takes a little bit for your body to, kind of turn those carbohydrates into quick energy. And so I think that carbohydrates can help the body temperature just maybe run a little hotter, just keep that metabolism going a little bit better. Maybe it's a little bit better for the thyroid. Some of this is just like some smelly science, and just some almost more on the speculative side than they are on the like fact side. But the swaps I really like are, I don't like swapping stuff from a size perspective because I don't want to eat less. So I'd rather eat more. And when I think of, swapping the foods out, there's also a volume situation here too. So yesterday, when I cooked up the flat iron steak from Piedmontese, while I was waiting for that, I ate a bunch of arugula and I just poured a little bit of, we have a balsamic vinegar. Just dumped a little balsamic vinegar, not a balsamic vinaigrette because those will have oil in them. Just a balsamic vinegar. Just dump some of that on there. And I just ate like a big old bowl of that. And it wasn't like, it wasn't like the greatest tasting thing because I didn't take the time to actually make like a real salad or anything. But I got my greens in. I got in some arugula. Arugula is supposed to be good for like nitric oxide production and stuff like that. And so I just kind of look at stuff that way, but I did get in a good amount of volume. A simple switch is to get Piedmontese beef, certified Piedmontese meat. It'll change. Just changes the game for you instantly. Otherwise, the only steaks that are really that safe to buy that are lower in fat would be like top sirloin and eye of round. Those are like the only two that you can buy where they're not going to have tremendous amounts of fat. Tri-tip, ribeyes, New Yorks, all those things have a lot of fat in them. But when you get certified Piedmontese beef, the fat calories are chopped just right in half. And so sometimes for some people, it's a little bit of an affordability thing. But I think that, you get what you pay for. Like if you're trying to get lean stuff, it costs more. I think chicken thighs are way cheaper than chicken breasts, right? Another swap is, again, chicken breast over chicken thighs, right? Like you could have the chicken thighs, and what I would suggest is like maybe you cook them all together. Throw them in a Pyrex and throw them in your oven, or you can throw all of them on like a grill. But if you grill them all at the same time or throw them in the oven at the same time, especially if they're all on a Pyrex type thing, they're going to be sitting in like all the juices. So the chicken breast will get a little bit of that fat in there and probably make everything taste a little bit better, make everything a little bit more palatable, because I recognize that not everyone loves chicken breast. But a lot of people need to learn how to cook too. You can make chicken breast, and you can make chicken breast taste awesome. One quick, easy hack for chicken breast. First of all, an oven works incredible for chicken breast. I think it's way superior than a grill. So an oven, a regular oven, or, sticking it in an air fryer, those things work great. But you can also just take a little mallet type thing and just pound your chicken, pound your meat, pound your meat, get that chicken nice and flat, and cook it whatever way you want. You could cook it in a pan. It doesn't really matter. I don't use any oils or whatever. I just cook the stuff dry. It doesn't matter. Some of it sticks to the pan or whatever, makes a little extra cleaning. But I don't even really want much of the fat calories coming from the pan. I guess if I really felt like I needed to or wanted to, I would just use like a little bit of beef tallow, and I would just get the pan just a little bit shiny at the bottom there, just to, just so that shit's not completely sticking to the pan. Egg whites are unbelievable. Like, I think if you're cooking an omelet or you're doing any of these things, like, I think that you should always, like, literally always chop out some egg yolks. Like, it's going to taste about the same, So if you had a 6-egg omelet and you have 2 whole eggs or 3 whole eggs in there, that's going to taste close enough to the same. From a taste perspective and from a satisfying perspective, what I want you to kind of think about is, are you in it to make progress, or are you in it to have like tasty things? You know what I mean? Like the taste of stuff can't completely rule your life. And when you're trying to eat healthier, stuff doesn't have to suck. It doesn't have to taste like shit. Like, there's so many cookbooks. There's so much information. I would definitely advise, checking out Coach Greg's cookbook, Greg Doucette, because that book is all about like eating lower fat stuff, basically. He has recipes for all kinds of stuff. I think he makes ice cream. That's another thing I forgot to mention about the ice cream, like swapping out ice cream. Get a Ninja Creamy, and make some goddamn ice cream, or just learn how to make, you can learn how to make an ice cream in your Ninja blender. You know, if you have some sort of fibery type thing that will give it a little bit of gum, just look it up. I mean, people can look some of the stuff up on YouTube. It's really easy. But I think Coach Greg has some information in his cookbook on how, because he was making those shakes where he would like take them out and you pretend to dump them on his head. And if it didn't come out of the thing and land on his head, then he knew he had the consistency just right. But yeah, look some of that shit up and, start really taking control of your life and taking control of your food. Another great swap is to use Greek yogurt. Like rather than having sour cream, get a fat-free Greek yogurt and then throw that on your potato. And I think you'll be surprised. I think it tastes pretty damn good. Some of you might be like, oh, it's kind of, but sour cream and yogurt are like, they're similar. But we got to get out of this. We got to get out of this like fat mode. We're dumping so much fat on stuff all the time. I'd also select cheese over certain things like mayo's bullshit, like mayo, butter, like they're just all, that's all it has is fat. When you use cheese, at least there's protein in there. But I don't think people even know this. Like people are completely unaware. An egg is very fatty. And so is cheese. Cheese is really fatty, mozzarella cheese, a little less fat. But they're 1-to-1, 1 gram of protein to 1 gram of fat. So they're not that lean. We want to get stuff that's fucking lean. We want stuff that has more like 2 grams of protein for every gram of fat, or even less. If you can start to find things that have, 30, 40, 50 grams of protein and still quite a bit under 10 grams of fat, then you found something awesome. But the foods that are like that are super rare. Again, they're only like the white foods. They're only white meats or light colored meats. I'm trying to make sure that's accurate. There's not a dark meat of any kind that isn't riddled with like a lot of fat. It's going to have a lot of fat in it. So your options are turkey. And at the store, they have 99% lean turkey or 98. There's a 93 as well. And maybe you take the 93 and the 98, maybe you mix them together. So you get a little bit, leaner thing with a maybe better taste, right? Because like you need some flavor in there here and there. And you can do the same thing with ground beef. You can take 93.7 lean ground beef, dump some 99 turkey in there. Maybe you make a giant thing. Maybe you go, 2 packets of 93.7 lean ground beef, and you do 1 packet of the 99 turkey, right? And now you're having something that's super lean. Something that's kind of helping me get out of like binge party is just really reducing the amount of meat and reducing the amount of protein and just getting it out of my head that I need all this protein. It doesn't seem like it's making that big of a difference just to drop out some protein. Now, the cool thing about protein is you can eat it, maybe not completely unlimited, but you can eat a lot of protein. Again, the problem being is like try to find proteins that don't have fat in them. Fat is always coming along for the ride with protein, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but for what our goals are, and for some of you guys and girls out there, you're trying to lose weight. You're trying to lose weight pretty aggressively. And the fat is going to be something that can really hold you back. Now, here's another thing that makes things a little bit more complicated. If we restrict carbohydrates too much, we know that we can go the other way and we can end up binging. If we restrict fats way too much, we know that we can go the other way. So you have to be, this is not an easy thing to figure out day in and day out. And I know Cole Robinson will say, swig on some juice and do some of these things. And yeah, like apple juice and some of these things, like per unit of, how many calories is in like a little cup of juice, it actually yields a nice amount of energy for you to have good energy output. But there's a lot of people that aren't outputting much of anything. They don't do a whole lot physically. So not really burning a lot of calories. But also, one of the problems with something like apple juice is it doesn't really solve any sort of hunger. It might taste yummy, like, oh, it tastes pretty good. But sometimes carbohydrate can even make you a little hungrier. So we have to really find a good balance. And that's where eating just whole fruit is going to be great. Some bananas and stuff like that here and there, but you want to go after fibrous fruit as well. Plums, peaches, apples, like, you can just look all this shit up. It's all online. It's all easy to find. Oranges, like eat 2 big ass fucking oranges. I'll slow you down in your tracks quite a bit. And it tastes unbelievable. And this time of year, a lot of fruit is coming into season. And it's a great time of year to start to embrace some of this diet where you're predominantly eating fruit. Just again, to kind of reiterate exactly what I'm doing is mostly through the morning and afternoon, I'm predominantly eating only fruit. Maybe some fermented vegetables, kind of depends on my day. If I'm at home more, I might be eating a couple other things. I might have some rice cakes. I've been digging that lately. I'll dump some honey on those things. And that's pretty delicious. That's on days that I'm lifting. If I'm not lifting, then I wouldn't bother with the rice cakes. Then in the evening, I will have a really lean piece of meat, Piedmontese meat or shrimp or scallops or something like that, or cod. And then I may have a starch with it. Last night, cooked up a bunch of potatoes, threw these little tiny, like yellow potatoes. I chucked them in the air fryer and sliced them up after I got them out of the air fryer and just threw some salt on them. They were amazing. I didn't throw anything else on them. There's no olive oils, no butter, no nothing. Doesn't need any of that. All that stuff is going to add flavor, but it's also going to be the thing that can really slow you down in your tracks and prevent you from losing weight. Again, I've just seen so many people get stuck on the ketogenic train, or so many people get stuck on a carnivore style diet. And so I think the next move for a lot of people is to pull those fats out, but we can't pull the fats out and not have carbs. So you pull the fats out, you have some carbs, now you have energy. Because you have energy, your output is exponentially greater every single day. And if you're not doing an activity every single day, you need to start to do one. You need to pick one. Like, you need to have some sort of activity that you do every fucking day. You need to do something every day. You need to do something every day. Ride your bike, go for a walk, lift some weights, whatever things that you enjoy, do something every single day. One of the things that has gotten kicked around and kind of lost in the shuffle over the years is because people have been promoting it or talking about it negatively is cardio. Cardio is awesome. Hit up 30 minutes of cardio a day. 30 minutes of cardio every day. Some sort of cardio. Doesn't have to be, you don't have to be on the elliptical. You don't have to be, and you should be sweating. Like, if you're not sweating, it's just, this is what has to be done. And cardio can be done at any level. For some people, that means to go out and run a 7-minute mile and they run 5 miles. But for other people, it's not going to mean that. It just means you're on the treadmill, you're on the elliptical, you're on the Stairmaster. That activity has got pushed to the side so much because people have promoted that, like, oh, that's not a great way to lose weight. It's a great way to manage your weight. It is an awesome way to manage your weight because you want some of that calorie burn every day. It's the reason why I've talked so much about the 10-minute walks for so long. And my 10-minute walks just started turning into running. But I would say that for people that are heavy, they need more cardio activity, and they don't need as much weight room. But if you like the weight room, it's an awesome thing to like, because I want you to stay attached to the weight room if that's something that you really enjoy. I'm just saying, like, it would be great if you can figure out a way to get in 30 minutes of cardio somewhere in your routine. We got some more questions?
Yep. Freddy's Gym wants to know if you track salt or do you just salt to taste? Since coming off of carnivore, my electrolytes have been kind of screwed up.
Yeah. He said coming off of carnivore. I'm not sure what he went into more recently, but most of my salt and most of my cramping and stuff, like, it all disappears, when you start to eat fruit. And you start to eat fruit and vegetables, they're very rich in potassium. Some of them have some magnesium in them, and there's just a lot of cofactors in fruit that will allow you to keep your body hydrated really well. Something I was just thinking about the other day. I was like, I think I need to drink more water because I haven't been drinking that much water. But then I was like, oh, it's probably because I'm hammering so much fruit. Fruit contains a lot of water. So fruit will help with hydration. I mean, I sell hydration. I have a fruit punch. I have a lemon berry, a chocolate, and a salted caramel, and they're all amazing. I still utilize those, but there's no better electrolyte on this planet than fruit. I mean, I think that's why fruit was put here probably in the first place. And obviously salt, right? I mean, salt's huge. So I salt to taste. I like salt quite a bit. There's a lot of different types of salt to purchase. I think real salt is a good option. You want to try to get, a salt that is, that if you get table salt, sometimes there's like maltodextrin and like other shit in a table salt. So, again, if you're eating fruits and vegetables, I don't think it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I know like Element has kicked ass. And I know that I wrote an article for Power Magazine with Stan Efferding a long time ago. I think that spawned and sparked Element getting their company going, because when you're on low carb and you're doing like keto-ish style diets and stuff like that, you definitely open yourself up to losing a lot of electrolytes. And what do people say about a ketogenic diet? They say, oh, the first 2 weeks you're going to lose a lot of weight, but it's just going to be water weight. Well, yeah, because you're peeing all the time, right? And because you're peeing all the time, you're peeing out a lot of electrolytes. Also, when you're losing body fat, it's my opinion that you're losing a lot of electrolytes too, because you end up peeing a lot when you're losing body fat as well. So it's just something to be kind of conscious of. And are you having any symptoms? Sometimes you might feel tired, you might feel sluggish, and sometimes it's your electrolytes. And sometimes it's just lack of food. So I don't know what diet this guy switched to, but one of the reasons to do some of these diets that I've been promoting and talking about for a long time, whether it's carnivore or keto or this kind of fruit diet, this sugary diet, one of the reasons to do these and one of the reasons why I promote these styles is because you don't have to reduce your overall calories a lot. Like you might have to reduce them a bit. You're going to have to reduce the overall amount of food that you're eating in some way, but you can replace it with food volume and swaps, as I'm talking about right now. And your calories need to be like lower, right, for you to like lose weight. I'm not trying to contend with the laws of thermodynamics, but I still stand by what I say. I don't think you need to be a bunch of calorie counting cunts to get the results that you need. I don't want to bash anybody that's able to make progress. Like if you're counting your calories, we've had many people come on this podcast and I say, hey, how'd you do it? How'd you lose 80 pounds? They say, I counted calories. And all I can say to that is great. All I can do is just put my fist up and give them a fist bump. That's not the way I would do it. That's not the way I would manage it. But if they did it that way, then that's awesome. Like, I like when the rules are concrete, but I also like a diet where you don't feel so deprived that you feel like shit. Like you shouldn't feel like shit from your diet. And sometimes with some of these diets, especially like a keto diet, you can go a little too far and you just need all this salt and electrolytes and stuff. And it's like, well, why don't you just eat them? Why don't you just eat? You want to just have some fruit, God damn it. Like, I don't want to go off my plan. It's like to the detriment of your health. Like that doesn't sound great. And that's why I've been promoting meat and fruit for a long time. That's why I've done carnivore before. I suffered some of those issues and I was like, fuck this. I don't care if I'm not part of the carnivore community. I still was meat-based. I still am meat-based. A lot of my diet was primarily meat. At the moment, it's not. Maybe that'll come back. Because I've been thinking a little bit more about maybe I should just have, like, 'cause I'm not having protein in the morning. And I've been thinking like, maybe I should, when I wake up, maybe I should eat my fruit, do my thing. And then maybe I should have some like egg whites or something. Maybe I should have like a little bit of protein in the morning. Not because I think I need the like amino acids and all that for muscle mass and stuff like that. I just think I might be better off a little bit more full, because still when I get home and I'm hungry, I still feel like maybe a little too hungry. So I'm trying to calm some of that food noise down. What's the next question we got?
R. Vasquez asks, what supplements are you taking?
That's actually a great topic. So we got transcriptions right here, and we have like methylene blue, and we have a bunch of other stuff from the company Transcriptions. They're a sponsor of the show as well. They have like a relaxing supplement. They have a sleep supplement. They have combo nicotine and methylene blue. At the moment, that's one of the few supplements that I'm utilizing is some methylene blue. I'm also using, I forget some of the different names of some of the products, and I should probably get more familiar with it. But one of the other ones I use is the relaxing one. So I use that maybe a couple hours before bed every night. I don't notice, like, it's not like putting me out, like, and I'm drooling all over the place or anything, but I do feel like a calming effect from it. The methylene blue is something that I don't use every single day, but it's my understanding that methylene blue can help you absorb near infrared and far infrared light. And I do some red light therapy here and there, and I also go outside often, and so that's why I'll utilize that to help amplify the impact and the effects of some of that. But supplement wise, I have an entire room, like literally. I'll have Ryan film it, and we'll show you. I have hundreds of supplements. I got rid of a lot of supplements more recently, and I was just like, you know what? I'm taking a lot of stuff. It's been a little bit since I got my blood work done. I was like, let me just start over. So all the stuff that's in that room, it's just boxed up, and I haven't touched any of it. I have, everything from vitamin C to Viagra to Cialis to, cartilage formula to, do you name it? I have everything. I got stuff from my people over at Human Garage. They make some great supplements. I have supplements from all different kinds of friends, and people have sent stuff to me over the years. And I just decided, you know what? I don't really even know what any of this is doing at the moment. So let me pull way back. And I pulled all the way back to not taking anything other than the methylene blue and other than my own supplements, my protein powders, as well as, and don't forget, my protein powders have titrated into them an organ blend that provides you with a lot of vitamins and minerals. But also I take my electrolyte formula, and that's been it for now. And steroids, of course. I'm not going to get rid of steroids for now, but maybe I will try to get rid of them at some point. Maybe I can't.
Let's see here. Next question. I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit.
Sure.
But Miranda wants to know if you cycle your fats like you do carbs.
That's a absolutely great option, and I'm glad you brought it up. John Hack, we had on the podcast, he's a huge promoter of carb cycling, and I think carb cycling is ultimately probably what I'll land on. Now, carb cycling also means fat cycling, and what you're probably not going to cycle too much of is probably the protein, although you could, but maybe there's not as much of a reason to do it. To me, that makes a ton of sense. It really does. Keto for a day. I think it sounds kind of funny, but look, if we're thinking about, you go through the day and you're very low fat and you have very lean meats, you have stuff that's kind of dry, you have stuff, right? And 2-3 days later in your brain, you're like, man, I want a ribeye. Well, why not just have the ribeye? Why not just make room for the ribeye? This is what people that count calories do. They make room for the ribeye by, just not eating all day, and then they have the ribeye and they have the potatoes and even mashed potatoes, right? Who did we have on recently? Was talking about eating mashed potatoes and a big old ribeye. That was Dan John. Yeah, Dan John was saying he said I can afford to have that, and he meant that he does a little bit of intermittent fasting beforehand. So there's a way to, like, how do you have it all? Well, this is a way to have it all, is through some carb cycling. And when you carb cycle, you would also be fat cycling, because on the days where you ate more carbs, it would be wise to bring the fats down. I want to address something real quick that came to mind here. And this is, I got to start asking some questions when we have some guests on the show. Maybe bringing Thomas DeLauer back on the show would be a good idea, because he's changed his mind quite a bit about carbs, and he's changed his mind quite a bit about fat too. And I just want to say, like, changing your mind, like, because I'm doing this diet now doesn't mean I'm not going to go back to some of these other diets. I'm definitely going to utilize keto. I think, when it's not getting closer to summertime and stuff like that, and it starts to be more like winter, I'd imagine I'll be eating keto bricks and having some ribeyes and stuff like that here and there, because I really do enjoy that style of eating. But yeah, carb cycling is a great way to get the best of both worlds. But what I was going to say is, I want to address, excuse me, I want to address people wearing continued glucose monitors, and checking out like this glucose spike. Like this glucose spikes. And it's automatically assumed that it's like bad. If you were to ingest, if you drank like a bottle of honey, right, and nothing happened to your glucose levels, like, that would mean there's something terribly wrong with your body. Like, that would mean, like, your glucose should get spiked. It should go up. And it's my understanding that when your glucose goes up, so does your insulin as well. It's like signals your pancreas to produce insulin. Those things are very normal. I think where you can be in trouble is if your glucose stays elevated and it's not clearing, and we end up with the energy traffic jam that I mentioned earlier. You want to see a glucose spike. You want the insulin to come in, because the insulin, again, my understanding is insulin's like a nutrient partitioner. It's going to kind of figure out, like, oh, the muscle cells, like, let's send a bunch of sugar that way. And then if somebody doesn't have that much muscle, it's sending it somewhere else, and it starts to store those fats in your fat, or around your liver, or around your heart. That's some of my very basic understanding of some of those things. But when we get other people on the show that are more scientific, those are some things that I should be asking them. But I want to just make it clear that just because you wear a glucose monitor, or you prick your finger after a meal and your glucose is spiked, it doesn't mean anything negative towards your health. It doesn't mean anything negative towards increasing your body fat. There's people that kind of make that sound like you're not going to be able to lose any weight that way. You're not going to be able to lose body fat by spiking your. We just know that that's not true. We know it's not true at all. Bodybuilders are injecting themselves with insulin, and the insulin's helping to clear and distribute those carbohydrates where they want them to go. And it's certainly not in the fat cells. If you've ever seen a pro bodybuilder before, you can distinctly tell where those carbohydrates are being stored. They're being stored in their muscle cells. So yeah, this idea that the your carbs that you're ingesting is like automatically just making you fat is ridiculous. And it's something that I hope that I've made it clear over the years that even though I was very low carb, and even though I have made statements of like, hey, if you want to lose weight, don't eat carbs, I'm still a fan of that. I was just thinking about this the other day because a friend was asking me like, hey, what did I recommend to him? I said, dude, you got to pull out your carbs, just because it's easier. It's an easier conversation still for me to say, pull your carbs way back, have 2 or 3 main meals a day, utilize a little bit of intermittent fasting, have a nice breakfast every morning, ride dirty throughout the middle of the day, have like some fruit and some stuff that's easy to bring with you to work, that's portable, and that's not going to like turn all shitty on you, like something that you don't even need to cook or microwave. Just bring a bunch of fruit and some low fat yogurt and make it through the day, then get home and eat some more food again. In the morning, eat your eggs. In the evening, have some steak or chicken. Try to go with something kind of leanish so it doesn't have too much fat in it. But that's where, if you're eating a lot less carbohydrate, that's where you can afford to, if you're eating a lot less carbohydrate, that's where you can afford to have some fat calories, right? Because we're pulling from a different spot. But just because you're low carb doesn't mean you should be having 200 grams of fat a day. I guess that's my main kind of thesis statement that I've been working on for a long time, is just that right there. If you're going to go low carb, and you're trying to lose body fat, if you're low carb and you can lose body fat on 300 grams of fat, then that's awesome. But it would probably be extremely rare for someone to be able to do that. The only person that I've ever had in this podcast, the only person I've ever communicated with that eats excessive amounts of, well, maybe there's still only one person, because even Robert Sykes is like lowering. Robert gets really lean still off of like 150 grams of fat. So, okay, there's two people. It's Robert Sykes and Dominic D'Agostino. So you can still achieve this, but those guys can get very strict with their diet. They can get very strict with the amount of carbohydrates that they eat. And Dom, both guys are tremendously muscular, but Dominic is huge. He's, I don't know, 220, 230. When he was here, he changed his shirt, getting ready for the podcast, totally, completely jacked. And he's just a brilliant guy. Great guy to be around. Small waist, looks like a bodybuilder, and insanely strong. Some of you guys may have seen him on Joe Rogan's podcast and stuff before. But one of the things I really love, especially about Dominic, is like if you start talking to him about carbs, you start talking to him about like, how you would eat, how a bodybuilder would eat. Yeah, look at him. There's a picture. We have a picture of him and Thomas DeLauer. And Thomas is a freak. Thomas DeLauer looks amazing. One of the and these guys are some of the few keto people that look awesome. A lot of people bag on people that do keto and they're like, they don't really look that good. And well, these two look incredible. But you see, like Dominic is quite a bit bigger than Thomas DeLauer. Thomas DeLauer is jacked as fuck. He's got a lot of muscle mass on him. But I think he's like 185, 190, which is big when you're that lean. When you're 5% body fat and you're 190, that is a lot of muscle mass to be carrying around. But Dominic is probably 225, strong as shit. So it's rare to find people that are consuming a lot of fat. I think when Dominic was on the show, I think he was saying he has like 200 or 300 grams of fat a day. But then, you got to look at his output. His output is like amazing. I don't know if he does much for cardio, but he's hyperactive and he lifts like a machine. I mean, I think he deadlifted 585 for like 10 reps or something. Yeah, he's an absolute beast. We got some more questions over there.
Get Fit asks, how long to go low fat to lean out? Heard low fat is not good for female hormones.
I think I love these topics, and I think it's always great to proceed with some caution. So I would say that you can do a low fat diet for a long time, for weeks and months on end. No fat is kind of a different story. There are people who've done like watermelon fast. Cali Muscle, if you can bring up a picture of him, he got really shredded. I think where some people make a mistake though is they go maybe a little too hard and they don't have any like meat. So I think Cali Muscle, like he did like a watermelon diet. And there's a couple other people who've done that where it's just all fruit or just all watermelon for like 30 days, 60 days. I'm not really advocating that. I don't really think that that's smart. I don't think there's a reason to do that. But if you're somebody that really is looking for some great change and you think that's something you can put into your life, I think maybe it does make sense, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to find things that can help change your life for the better forever. And I think there's also something else to think about though. After you do something like that, like what's your plan after that? And I think that's really critical. So for somebody to try something really extreme, I'm going to try this thing for 30 days. I'm going to go nuts with just this. That's cool. But then how do you, right? It's called an exit strategy. In business, you think about, before you ever start a business, you want to think about the end of it. I've had this idea for a while. I want to maybe open up a local shop here in Davis, and I want to serve, primarily like protein, and maybe have like smoothies and things that my wife makes, and it would be a lot of fun. But I'm thinking two things. One is, 3 years from now, am I still going to be excited about that? Additionally, what's the exit strategy out of that? How long do I run that for? Do I run that for 10 years? I'm 48. Am I going to run that from 50 to 60? You know what I mean? So it's stuff to think about when you're dieting. It's the same thing, or with your exercise routine. These next couple of months, I'm going to run and run and run and run and run. And, what's the end game? Okay, you're prepping for a marathon. Well, there we go. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And then what's it look like after the marathon? You should really think about it. You should consider, I think it's good that you get back out on the streets and you hit up another run as quickly as you possibly can coming off that marathon, so you don't kind of have the post-competition blues and you don't flounder and then your mileage just plummets, right? And the same thing here with the diet. We want to have a little bit of an exit strategy. So if you were to do something like that, if you were to be extreme with the amount of fat you're going to consume, you want to think about, how do I figure my way back out of the woods? And what you would do is, you would simply just add more meat back into the diet, and you would simply add more fat back into the diet, but in a reasonable way. You'd still keep the fats low. What I'm going to suggest right here is probably your best bet. This is a female, and I would say, bring the fat grams down like under 50 for a few days, and try that maybe periodically. Maybe try that. I would say, I would go Monday through Friday, honestly, and try that, because it's not gonna hurt you. Especially it's not gonna hurt you to be 50 grams of fat or less for 5 days. Now, keep in mind, my fat calories are even lower than that, but I'm also chemically enhanced. I utilize performance enhancing drugs. Hopefully I say that enough so everybody understands that. But even saying that, even utilizing performance enhancing drugs, and even with, some cardiovascular training and stuff that I do, it's still a bitch for me to move the scale. So moving the scale it's not the easiest thing in the world, but what you should see is, over time, you should see a trend that the scale is going downward. I think as of about 2 years ago, I think it was 240. And now the heaviest that I'll ever weigh on the scale right now is maybe 222, 223, maybe, after a meal, after drinking a lot of water and being hydrated and all that stuff. That's like my heaviest. My goal is to make my heaviest probably more like 210, 212-ish, and to kind of have my lightest be 200, 203, somewhere in that range. But yeah, I don't think it's dangerous. I don't think it's going to. People haven't really done this before. So it might be interesting for you to try it yourself and get some blood work done. Maybe do it before and after of your blood work. I'm getting blood work done probably in another week or so, and I'm really curious to kind of see what could happen. I want to mention this also too. I do agree, by the way, that your hormones can be negatively affected by not eating enough fat. However, the people that have said that, like for people like Enzema and stuff like that, they're in a massive caloric deficit, and they're exercising a lot. So it's not just the diet. It's not the fact that they just lowered fats. It's the fact that they're doing it weeks on end and they're in a huge caloric deficit. So we don't really know, is it the fats or is it the caloric deficit? I would bet that it's probably the fats. I would agree with that. We know there's something called rabbit starvation, where some people have starved and died from eating rabbit because there's not simply enough fat on it. But I would actually say that if they just were eating fruit with that, if they were able to have access to fruit, I don't think there's any way they would have died. Maybe these people that died from rabbit starvation are people that were hunter gatherers or something like that, and they couldn't have access to like hardly anything else, and food was super scarce, and they're already basically fasted for many days or many weeks or months. That's a different scenario. So I think that people don't know anything about this diet just yet. I think the verdict is still out, because I'm not asking anybody to be in a huge caloric deficit. In fact, I want you to get after it. I want you to eat a lot of fruit. I want you to check the scale, though. Like, smash fruit, smash lean meat, smash vegetables, check the scale. Did it go anywhere? Okay, it didn't go anywhere for 3 days. It didn't go anywhere for 5 days. Okay, it didn't go anywhere for 5 days. Now we got to make sure. But what's also cool about it is what I shared with Cole Robinson was, dude, I'm smashing quite a bit of food. And what's neat about that, the scale didn't go up. So sometimes we have to celebrate the fact that the scale's not going up. That's not just like some cheap ass moral victory. I think that that's actually pretty cool. The scale's not going up. The scale is not always going to head downward. It's just not. And there are going to be cases where the scale does head upward. But then from there, you need to learn how to autocorrect. So I would recommend try about 5 days in a row at 50 grams or less, which shouldn't be crazy. And if that feels good, on the weekend, maybe eat a little bit more fat, get the fats back up to like 80, and then, repeat. Start it the next week, try it again, and go, maybe try 40 grams of fat. See how that works for you.
Speaking of the scale, this guy, Joseph, says, Mark, WTF, man, LOL. When you started this series, I was 218 pounds. Now I'm 189. Get the eating under control and get to 195. Brother, you are a beast.
Yeah, great job. That's really, really incredible. And, I'm glad that people are following along. And yeah, again, the stuff that I've been saying at the onset of the Single Digit Body Fat series, I've been defaming fat for a while now. I've been talking about demonizing fat and fat being the enemy, fat keeping you fat. I think just in the standard American diet, we can look at all kinds of different things. I know Dominic D'Agostino is having a debate between Lane Norton and another famous doctor, and they're going to discuss sugar quite a bit. And they're going to discuss, like, is sugar, quote unquote bad? And I would say, like, I made a comment on there. Maybe you can check his Instagram. Maybe you can check Dominic's Instagram. Maybe you can read it. But I basically just was kind of saying, I was saying how I think that anything can be bad for us when it's in excess. So we eat too much of anything and we start to go over our calories. That's when things are going to be shitty for us. I think it's probably in that first video there. Is he talking in that video? Yeah, maybe he says it on there. Then maybe my comment is next to it. Can you see it?
Yeah. So you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Says, sugar without fat seems to be the best energy source we have. Sugar with fat makes it easy to overeat and can cause metabolic gridlock. The same gridlock can happen with lots of fat. Most likely the same gridlock might happen with just sugar, carbs, but it's harder to overeat, especially with some protein in the mix.
There we go. Yeah. And so I think it's just something to really think about. I think that we've really demonized sugar. And I'm in that boat. I definitely was part of that narrative, and I would look at drinks and I'd look at bars and I'd look at different things, and I would see the sugar in it. I'd be like, oh, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to have that. And I still do that. Like, I stopped at a gas station yesterday. I'm waiting for my Lucid, by the way. I got rid of my Tesla, not because of Elon Musk, but I got rid of my Tesla just because I wanted something new. So I won't have to go to the gas station as much. But anyway, I went to the gas station and I got a Gatorade Zero and a regular Gatorade because I was going to go and work out. And so I was like, oh, it'd kind of be good to drink the Gatorade. That's something I used to do a long time ago. Yeah, there's some of the new Lucids. I got the Dream. I think it's the Dream Edition. Thing's insane looking. Yeah, it looks nuts. I'm super excited about it. My friend Zach, he works at Lucid, and this will be the only one on the road. There's only, I guess, a handful of people that ordered these things, so I'm super fired up for when it comes. It looks like on the inside, it's like the ultimate like luxury vehicle. It just almost looks like a home on the inside. The inside's probably actually even more impressive than the outside of the car. But yeah, I got a regular Gatorade and a Gatorade Zero, because I'm like, well, I don't need all that sugar all the time. I'll enjoy the Gatorade Zero probably later on today or tomorrow or something like that. And if it doesn't have any carbs in it, then I can kind of have it anytime. But if something that does have carbs in it, then I'm going to probably have it like more like pre-workout, or maybe during a workout. So all the same rules still apply, like what Cole's doing and Durian Ryder and some of these people. It's not really like new or novel, but they're just pointing to the fact that, and bodybuilders have been eating this way for a really long time. I'm certainly not going to be one to take credit for like inventing any diet. I didn't invent the war on carbs. My brother and I named it that. I didn't invent carnivore. I didn't invent meat and fruit. I didn't invent any of these things. I just have been somebody who's been interested in them, and I like them. And what I'm trying to do my best job of communicating, I'm trying to help you land on something that's comfortable for you. In that process, I would love for a lot of you to follow along and to try these things. And when I say try, I'm like, just try it for a day. Just give it a shot for a day. Just give it a go for one day, and then just see like, okay, well, that day was kind of cool. Let me see how the next day goes. I really do believe that this diet is something that could help people reach their goals. And I believe it can help them reach their goals pretty fast. Now, remember, I also said in the beginning that all these diets work, all different types of diets work. It's the adherence and the consistency that it makes everything go. At Westside Barbell, we had an amazing group of people that came in the gym and worked their ass off. And we lifted under the Westside flag. We lifted under the Westside moniker. We lifted under the Westside rules. But what made the system work was that we showed up every day. Consistency and intensity. Consistency and intensity over and over and over again. It's the only thing that makes anything go. It's the only thing that makes anything work. What level of intensity do you need every single day? I would say you could be at like a 7. And that's reasonable to put in a 7 every day. Even at Westside Barbell, which was intensity times 1,000 on testosterone, like it was awesome. It was an intense environment, but it wasn't 100% every day. Everyone in there was working hard, but sometimes we were overworked. Sometimes we were underslept. Like there's combination of things. You still try to bring it in whatever way you can, but realistically, you're only going to be able to put in a 7 to 8 every single day. If we try to put in a 10 every day, it's just going to be hard. I mean, you are trying, you're doing your best to put all of your effort into every single thing that you do each and every day. But is it reasonable to be a 10 out of 10 every single day on everything? I don't think it is. I don't think it makes any sense. Like you're not going to be perfect with everything. I mean, even think about, you could be thinking, all right, tomorrow I'm taking my son and we're going to throw the baseball around and like, we're going to do this thing, right? Well, the next day comes around and you have this to do and that to do and that to do and that to do. And this thing kind of gets pushed back and your son's like, hey, we're going to play ball. You totally forgot about it. You did deadlifts that day. You're worn out. You're tired as shit. And when your son asks you that, you're like, we're probably going to play tomorrow. Stuff like that happens, right? Because you can only put in so much effort every day. But it's the consistency that's going to matter in the long run. It's not like you brush your kid off and never take them out and throw the ball around, right? You're going to do it. It's consistency over time that is always going to win. With any of these styles of diets, you can make all of them work. It's a matter of which one can you make work and which one will feel maybe the least like work. Which diet will you find that will feel like the least amount of work? For me, intermittent fasting has been a novel thing. It's been amazing for me. It's been incredible for me to bring that into the mix. Intermittent fasting, protein leveraging. What's protein leveraging? Increase your percentage of protein, right? Increase your percentage of protein and your hunger goes down quite a bit. Protein is not something that necessarily counts against us in terms of gaining body fat. It's not necessarily a free nutrient or free calorie. I wish that it was, but it's not completely free. It might be kind of close to it. So that we have strategies, right? There's versions of fasting or intermittent fasting. I still consider what I do intermittent fasting because I go through many hours of the day every day, 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. I say anything over like 5 hours is intermittent fasting. I don't know. I'm not a genius with these things. I ain't no doctor, but that's my belief. Anything over 5 hours is intermittent fasting to some degree. And I do that almost every day, a couple times a week at the very least. And it's something that helps me to control my calories. The one thing you want to look out for is what are things that actually are making things a little bit harder and that you might not be. So do you still have a hard time at night? Do you still have a really hard time with your food at night? If you do, then it might make sense to look at your food in the morning. What are you eating in the morning? You're trying just to go through the morning, real light calories, but then you struggle later on in the evening. That's why I've been thinking about like I should probably have some protein in the morning, again, to utilize that protein leveraging theory hypothesis and to circumvent and get around me wanting to like binge later on when I get home from work. So, but we got to be like, there's a lot of things you got to be conscious of to figure all this out. But you scarfing down a couple egg whites or a combination of some egg whites and a yolk or two could very well be the answer to long-term weight loss for you, because it could help you with that binge, which could help you be more consistent, and it can help you put more consistency and intensity into what you do every single day. This fruit diet is something that can help you put more intensity into every single thing that you do because you'll just want to exercise often. Just maybe be a little cautious that you're not overdoing the carbohydrates because it kind of have the reverse effect on you where they can make you a little sluggish.
FDSA says, Mark, I need advice on how to strengthen my feet. I'm 6'4", 230 pounds. I play sports and run, but I found mountain hiking is killing my feet. Any advice appreciated?
First thing you want to do is to just do some toe crunches and to start to gain some awareness of moving your feet. Some people have reported that their feet get stronger from wearing like Vivo barefoot shoes and just wearing them often and wearing them for training and stuff. And that could be something that can really help. I will share a link with Ryan here in a second to so we can post this up as well, because I just shared this with my friend this morning who trains some NFL running backs and stuff. It's a great product. He also trains some really high level golfers, and your feet. It's going to be hard for you to find a sport where you're not really engaging your feet like a madman. You really do. You really need to use your feet a lot. I would say if you have access to a punching bag, like a heavy bag, I would punch the heavy bag barefoot. Would be a really good idea. So this product right here is called Toe Pro, and we're looking at this black kind of chunk of foam that's ribbed for our pleasure. And you could do this 1 foot at a time or 2 feet at a time. And you basically just do like little calf raises on there, isometrics. you guys can figure out all the different exercises to do. But when you check out their website, which is what it was, towpro.com, is that what it is?
It looks like it says humanlocomotion.com.
Humanlocomotion.com. I was way off. So this surface is foamy, spongy. This is not like a plyometric device. This is not something like some sprinters are like, that's not going to increase ground contact. It's like not made for that. This is to build up some strength in the foot, and you put it at different angles. They have great videos on their page, showing and explaining, what to do. And I need to look at it myself because I haven't looked at the website that much. But you can hip hinge off of it. You could squat off of it. You could put it at different angles. It's like a small ramp. But what happens is when you go to stand on the damn thing, your toes are sort of forced to grab it. And you're kind of like, oh shit. Because you're not just like flexing your calves. You're not just flexing, your Achilles tendon or anything like that. You're forced to really flex your toes. And for people that have foot pain, people that have plantar fasciitis, you really need to get this. They also have another product that's like a little wobble board type thing. And I like that one a lot too. So they both have a lot of application. They're both great products. The other interesting thing I found on the product was when my foot was down on the lower edge of it, it made it even more intense. And my toes really had to grab in even harder. This site has like a lot of different things. But that's the main one that you're going to want to get, whatever the heck that thing's called. I think it's called Toe Pro. I'm not sure. But that'll help strengthen your feet a ton. If you don't want to buy anything, you just use a towel. And you just start to crunch your feet on the towel. Yeah, Ryan's showing us, like, they got a lot of different stuff on the site. So you can go nuts, and then you can get all kinds of shit for your feet. I believe they have stuff for other things too, but anyway, get a towel and practice crinkling the towel with your toes. You can also try to pick stuff up with your feet. You can get some marbles, try to pick some stuff up with your feet. This is a little bit more intense, and this is something that I plan on doing at my house. I'm gonna make like a sandbox, and I really want to start. Oh yeah, Ryan's showing a good video of pulling with your feet using a towel. You can also go outside in your yard if you have some grass. You can just grab the grass with your feet. Like, I love doing that. Then on top of that, you're grounding. So this time of year when it's nicer outside, you can go outside, you can ground, you can tan, and you can train your feet kind of all at the same time. I do that quite a bit, like especially more recently, and really try to, try to really grab shit with your feet. And in between, you want to try to really like toe splay. What I was saying earlier was you might want to hit a heavy bag though, barefoot or with some sort of minimalist shoe. That'll really, keep you on the balls of your feet. Some jump rope might be a good idea. Just jumping in general is going to train the shit out of your feet. Trying to train the tibialis with some conventional exercises. There's the lean against the wall thing where you pick the toes up, and you're just kind of flexing the tibs. And any drills, if you just like look up some drills that sprinters do. I was fortunate enough to get with some of the guys over at Z Tread, and they showed me. By the way, that treadmill was insane. It's the best built treadmill on planet Earth. Look at this thing. Look at me not using my spine when I'm sprinting. I'm off the team. Some of what happened during this workout is that some of these things got to be pretty challenging. So as we went, my running got worse. And then plus I have been on the shelf for a little bit with running because of my stupid foot. So I got to be strengthening my feet as well. And that's how I've been learning about this stuff. But you can also too, I'm sprinting on here barefoot. So a little barefoot running can go a long way if you have access to a field or you have access to any sand. You have access to the beach or whatever. That would be good. But I was thinking for myself, I was going to make a little like sandbox for myself at my house and start to train my feet. But yeah, there's some strength coaches going over like some form exercises for me to do for sprinting, and that's something that could really really help you a lot with your feet, because everything a sprinter does is to try to create this stiffness in the lower leg. And Ryan, can you look up the word stiffness as it relates to physics? Like maybe type in, stiffness physics definition or something like that.
It says in physics, stiffness refers to a material's resistance to deformation when a force is applied. A stiffer material requires more force to produce a given amount of deformation compared to a less stiff material.
Yeah, deformation. I think that's really great terminology. So just to strengthen the foot, that's what we're up against right there, is to try to have the foot not have deformation when force is applied to it. So like when you go to jump and you come back down, like jumping is one thing, but coming back down is another, right? When we land, how do you have that foot not like explode when you land? And something that was happening to me that I didn't really realize, a couple people have pointed it out to me, but I tend to inside ankle bone low on my left side, especially as I fatigue. And because of that, that's the foot, that's the foot that I hurt, unfortunately. So I need stronger, not just stronger feet, but stronger lower leg. I need a stronger heel. I need stronger toes. I need stronger tibs, stronger calves. And, for me, a lot of the beating and pounding was coming through my calves. And I've been doing some myofascial release on that kind of, I'll show you guys. We'll make a video on this because it's really important. But my calf just has so much tension in it. It's nuts. And I'm like, how is this sitting here every day? I've been working on this every day, and it feels like I've made no progress. But you got to stay steady with these things. I was mentioning earlier with your diet, you might diet for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days and not notice much progress. But you got to think, man, like it's just a couple days, bitch, like, and same thing with what I've been working on with my leg. I'm like, you damaged it. Like the things hurt and it's going to take time. We have to, you want something to get better, you got to do something about it. You ever ask somebody like, oh, what are you doing for that? And they're like, huh? Say, oh my God, dude, my shoulder, like I hurt like 11 years ago. And it's never been the same. Oh, that's interesting. What are you doing for it? And there's like this long pause and they're like, oh, I was taking Advil for a while. And then, I tried this like different diet and I was doing, and there's always like, it's like, well, what are you doing for it now? It sounds like you're not doing anything for it. And I get it. I understand. Trust me, I've been in the same boat. I've had people, come to the gym and say like, oh, you don't seem like you're very mobile. And, well, what are you doing for it? I'm like, nothing. Cause I don't like doing mobility work. But I am nowadays. So I'm working on as much shit as I can at one time. I'm picking up sandbags. I'm trying to stretch. I am stretching. I am doing myofascial release. I am picking up sandbags. I'm doing as much shit as I possibly can every single day to try to be the best. But there's some tips on how to get the feet a little stronger. We'll take maybe a couple more questions and then we got to get out of here.
Go For It Fitness wants to know if you've heard of the Serge Nubret diet. It's 1 meal a day, 5 to 8 pounds of horse meat. And I guess later in his career, the guy switched over to beef.
Of course, I've heard of the Serge Nubret diet. Eating, a crazy amount of, unbelievable physique, Serge Nubret. I mean, I would just have to say, like, it's just, I don't know if that could be true. Like, that's just so much meat, I have not really ever heard of anybody eating that amount of food. He looked awesome though, right? He looked great. This diet has been around, people have done the similar versions of this diet. I believe Lyle McDonald is somebody that talks about, some versions of this diet. I believe Dr. Eric Serrano may have talked about some dieting like this. There is also something called a protein sparing modified fast, which is a real kick in the nuts. That's like, eat some protein, um, and don't have any fat. It's like pretty brutal. Uh, but you only do it for a couple days usually. That's a protein sparing modified fast. There's also cybergenics. I'm not sure if you can look up anything on cybergenics. Not much might come up because it's from like the 90s. But cybergenics, like one of the diet plans that was in there, told you to try to get in like 200 grams of protein, and you don't eat any fat. Oh, there's a bunch of supplements came up. Cybergenics it was like a program. It wasn't supplements at all. I don't think. I think it was like a program. And yeah, you wanted you to like not eat any fat. I remember like I was messing with this when I was like maybe 14 or something, or 15. And I was like, this is impossible. How do you eat stuff without fat in it? And that's when I learned about like egg whites and stuff like that. And I was like, and stuff they had that was low fat back then was just disgusting, like low fat or no fat cheese and stuff. And it was just horrible. So I never really went through with that diet, but I was like, it sounds interesting. So yeah, like I said, this diet's been around for a really long time. Check food labels, and you can't. There's no good way to do a task that is very challenging. There's no good way to turn it and make it super easy and make it super comfortable. You can't like completely flip it upside down. You could flip it up on its side. You can't completely flip it over. And that's the case with dieting. Like you can, yes, you can have some sorbet here and there. Yes, you can have some like frosted flakes or some fruity pebbles here and there, or cocoa pebbles here and there. There's ways to figure it out, but you're probably going to eat the whole box, right? So I have cereal at my house. I have Super Golden Crisps and Frosted Flakes. Luckily, my kids don't care, so they're not eating it. Maybe my son maybe had a bowl or two here and there, but my daughter doesn't care about it. My wife doesn't care about it. And I don't care about it that much to where I'm like shoveling down tons of it. But I don't know, every 3-4 days, maybe I'll have a bowl of it. So I've been able to have decent control with it. If you're someone that has no control, I don't know if it's great for you to purchase it. But I mix up, this is the whey protein and some water, shake that bitch up, dump it on there, dump some cinnamon in there, and I have a party with it. It's really like, I love the taste, the flavor of it. Now that would be on a day where my intensity is up higher. That would be a day where I'm getting after it a little bit more. But again, you can't really cheat the diet. That's not a great way to lose weight. Yeah, you just have to kind of think for yourself a little bit on some of these things. Now, will eating something like that allow you to be more consistent? If it does, then it gets a green light, but maybe it's more like a yellow light because you want to proceed with caution, right? You don't want to be eating that every day. And I know people are just count the calories and you can I understand. I think that there's some people I think that don't understand anything about being fat or being obese. Someone who's fat can't just do the thing that you mentioned. Like someone who has struggled their entire life with their diet and they tried every intervention under the sun, they already failed so many different times because they already have the habits ingrained into them that lead them back to some self-destruction over and over and over again. So you can't just tell someone that's obese, you can't just say, hey, bro, don't eat carbs. Like they can't just do that. They literally could just do that. But when they try to put it in practice, they might do it for a day, 3 days, maybe even a week or two. But eventually they're going to kind of fall apart and probably go back to their old ways. It's going to be really, really rare. Not that it's never happened in human history, but it's very unlikely that anyone has given somebody a little chunk of advice like that to someone who's 100 pounds overweight and boom, they just flipped the switch and changed their life forever and never gained any of the weight back. That's going to be a really rare occasion. You can't just tell someone like that, try intermittent fasting. You can't just tell them, only eat carbs. and protein. Don't eat any, don't eat any fat. You can't, you're just not going to get anywhere that way. It's not really going to actually work for them right away. Now, if you can say, instead, you say, hey, what do you currently eat? And you start to find out they have fast food a couple times a week. They drink a lot of soda. All right. Well, hey, I got a question. Do you think it's reasonable that maybe, instead of going to fast food 5 days a week, can you reserve that to just going once a week? And you start to try to find, and you get common ground with them and you try to have them agree. Yeah, I could. Okay. No, I don't think that's a good move for me. You go back and forth and you start to figure out, because this is a human being we're talking about. This is not an animal. It's not a dog. It's not something that you get to feed and you get to just control all the variables. And you say, oh, well, just don't buy any junk. Don't bring it in your house. Again, like none of that stuff. All those things are great suggestions, but none of it's going to work out of nowhere. It's going to take time. It's taken me a tremendous amount of time to figure out my diet for myself and to have it fit in with everything else that I do. And at the moment, it's rocking and rolling. It's better than it's ever been. And I can travel, I can do whatever. And I kind of have like a Swiss Army knife of dietary information, where I could utilize, if I need the cork or the wine opener thing, I got that. If I need the knife to, cut something, I have that as well. And I have a plethora of things. If I need to open up a bottle, I got the bottle opener as well. I have all these different things at my disposal to be able to implement. And then the same thing goes for fitness. I can go anywhere. I can travel anywhere. And there's just zero question that I'm going to usually when I go on vacation, I exercise more than ever, because it's like a beautiful time to like down regulate and just chill and relax. And one of my favorite things to do and relax is to go outside and go on walks and to see the town, see the city that I'm in, go on a jog, or go outside if I'm in an area where there's a beach, do some push-ups and some squats and some body weight exercises. And even if I'm just kind of chilling with my wife and we're like literally like laying out, just getting some sun, I'll pop up 10 minutes and just start doing lunges and rope flow and just start moving around just because it feels awesome. And I'm hoping to get a lot of you people there as well. I'm hoping to get you to a point where you feel compelled to want to move. You feel compelled to want to stick to the diet. I want to stick to the diet. The diet is enticing to me. It's nutritious for me. It's interesting for me. I really love it. And so for that reason, I'm able to stick with it a lot easier. We're going to take one more question and then we got to go.
Paul Fitzgerald wants to know if you have any thoughts on Corey G's anabolic fasting.
Corey Gregory, shout out to him. He's got great information. We were just talking about what a just horrible human being he is, because he makes people do 400-meter lunges. He's an absolute beast. Awesome power lifter, awesome guy, awesome entrepreneur. Great family man. I got tons of respect for Corey G. He's my homie. I'm not that familiar with the actual specifics of his diet, but I know that Corey is very similar to me, where he loves the many different facets of different styles of diets. So I know that he embraces low carb, and I know that he also embraces low fat. I think he goes back and forth and uses combinations thereof. And just knowing the information that knowing some of the information that Corey knows and interviewing him over the years, he's got really high level information. So I'm trying to think, I'm not sure if you can look up his book. I cannot remember exactly, where he left off with his some of his nutritional plans, but he's gotten shredded before. I mean, this guy, he's been on stage. He's competed in powerlifting. I think he competed in powerlifting and like a bodybuilding show, like in the same week. Does anything tell you anything about like what the diet is at all? Did you say it's called anabolic diet, or? I know Mauro Di Pasquale wrote Metabolic Diet and the Anabolic Diet, and those are great diet books as well. People should just investigate all these things. Ted Naiman has some good books out there. look into a lot of these different diets. Yeah, Corey's like prolific. You know, he's written some books on entrepreneurship and stuff as well. A good dude. But again, you know, regardless of even the advice he shared, like any diet, you know, they're all going to work. And if he's sharing a diet that he did specifically, then you know it's going to work because he's completely shredded. He's in some great shape. Anyway, folks, don't forget that we got chocolate banana and we have frosted oatmeal total carnivore on the website. Those are live right now. And also the MBSlingshot website, markbellslingshot.com. You can order and get any of the Within You brand products from there now. So we combined the two websites together, which kind of sounds kind of funny because like the protein shakes were sold on there in the beginning. Then we made them separate for a bunch of specific reasons, but we now joined them all together, and we're going to work on having it'd be good to hear from you guys too, like to know what combinations of stuff would you like to see bundled up and packaged for you guys. I know, like, I think a steak shake and a slingshot is like a real home run, you know, but because those are both the flagship products of both companies. So maybe you guys can let me know, and that way I can kind of put that in the old list of shit to do. Hopefully you learned a lot today. I really appreciate all the questions. Going to be opening things up in a little bit and start doing some Patreon, and Patreon will be a spot where I can talk about the cycles and shit like that I do. I could talk a little bit more freely about the testosterone, and we're going to make it at a very inexpensive price. And I love giving out free content and stuff, but I also need my time to get paid for as well. And I know there's like super chats on here and stuff like that. So if you guys want to ever do anything like that, that's dope. That's awesome. But we're going to be moving some of the stuff to Patreon. I'll still be popping in here probably every week. So I'm not taking anything away from you. I'm just going to be adding to the content that I already producing tons of content, and I'm have another podcast to roll into right now. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.